What's up, soul family? Coming at you with another collective reading. If you've been looking for messages from your angels, ancestors, spirit guides, even if they might be unconventional, then I might have a message for you. I believe that we can draw wisdom from all aspects of creation, even if they might be considered to be fictional to another person. And if you are interested in having a one-on-one reading, then you can always do so by directly messaging me. They start at $20 for your first reading. It'll be 20 minutes. You can ask whatever question you want. If it doesn't resonate, I'll simply refund you. Or if you don't have any questions, I'll just pull and we'll see what comes out, which tends to be pretty interesting. But either way, let's jump right in and see what comes out. So we have Seahorse with Family Matters. We have Jug with Lighthearted, Carefree Time. And then we have a card that just says Success, which I think is pretty direct. And then we have Butterfly, A Change for the Better. So right away, I feel like whatever, obviously, transition you're going through, there's a quote that kind of shifted my perspective through the experience I was going through recently, and it's what makes you think that what you're going through isn't the fastest path to getting what you wanted as far as, like, what you're manifesting. And sometimes, especially when we're in the middle of, like, conflict, even especially when it's, like, dealing with family and this and that, it can seem really frustrating. But sometimes it can be a sign of, especially if you're in the energy of trying to build your own life, trying to find your identity, trying to shift out of whatever experience you're currently in. A lot of times when we're experiencing conflict, it seems contradictory to a positive thing, but in reality, it could be that you are outgrowing the container that you're in. You're outgrowing the reality that you're in. And these signs of conflict or contrast are or these experiences of conflict or contrast can be signs that you are shifting into something different. You know, if you're having contrast against something, it points towards like what your perspective is, or what your experience, where your awareness is being different from something. So a lot of times when we have conflict or disagreement or negative, what we perceive to be experiences with people or environments, many times it's because we are not a match. We're kind of expanding sometimes outside of what we were originally experiencing. One of the things that I experienced was the old job that I had. It was just toxic. It was one of the situations where you were encouraged to pretty much lie, manipulate, or even pretty much basically steal from customers in order to make your numbers. And if you weren't doing such, it's like you're almost looked at as kind of like crazy for it. To the point in which it became something so normalized that I don't think the individuals doing it were actually even, it's like they almost I don't know if they convinced themselves that they weren't doing it. I don't know if they convinced themselves that it's something that's normal. Maybe they were aware and just didn't give a fuck. I really don't know. But the point I'm trying to make is I had a lot of conflict within that environment. And as a result of it, it kind of then pushed me out of that environment. And it seemed frustrating at first. But looking back on it, I start to think about where I am in my experience and kind of where that environment is. And that environment has a lot of mentality of having to hustle, having to grind, having to do whatever it takes to make money. Whereas my mentality is in a lot more alignment with how the universe works, with trying to be in flow, of trying to attract in abundance, of trying to not having to feel like I need to do anything to get money aside from being myself and allowing what's meant to be attracted into me. But I say all this to say that it seemed like a negative thing as I was having those disagreements, those arguments, and those negative interactions. But looking back on it, it was just a sign that where I was simply expanded past the paradigms that that job was trying to keep me within and the ideologies that that job was trying to push under me. So you would be very surprised about how sometimes from a different perspective, what conflict or anything as negative can be perceived to be is really just a sign of us aligning to where we want to get to and even having success. Then we have the Knight of Swords, and then the Three of Pentacles. So then maybe for whatever reason, you are about to receive like some kind of like notification, some kind of contract, some kind of letter, message, some kind of communication of some sort that will be giving you some kind of like contract, some kind of collaboration, some kind of cooperation, or some kind of collaborative effort towards something that you're going to be working on, maybe with other individuals. So I think whatever you're putting your mind towards, it could be getting a lot of traction or it could be getting a lot of attention. And a lot of times when we are in that mode of doing such, what tends to happen is people are like the Three of Pentacles. Whenever I think about Three of Pentacles, it's somebody who has mastered a certain level of skill. Now that you've mastered the skill, now you've become, or other people are becoming aware of the utility or the usefulness of said ability. So that's where the collaborations are coming in. So whatever it is, I think there's somebody coming in to communicate with you that there is some kind of like offer or opportunity or something like that along those lines, or maybe even to negotiate or work something out to create something with another individual or people. And I'd like to think, especially once we start getting into the realm of actually creating with individuals, when we're actually trying to collaborate and be creative versus having the mentality of, I guess the more 3D mentality where it's kind of like we're just working versus producing something that we're actually inspired to do. I think when that energy comes in, that's where the lightheartedness comes in. That's where the ease comes in. That's where a little bit more fun comes in. Not to say that it's not going to be work or effort, but I think that's where the lighthearted and carefree nature comes in. So I think whatever you are working towards, maybe it's going to end up coming in a very lighthearted and carefree nature. Maybe the people you're going to be working with will allow this experience to be something that's more fun and uplifting versus anything that's really, stressful. And I think a lot of times when I think about like that, I think about like anime or cartoons or even just shows like that. I think a lot of times, yes, the people who are creating this are many times under immense amounts of stress and pressure. And I don't ever want to say that they don't deserve to be compensated better. I'm not saying that they don't deserve more money for their work. I think all these things are explicitly true. But I do also think that they do this out of a genuine passion and love and a creative drive that kind of fuels them. And I think a lot of times, even like when you watch even some of the most serious shows or animes or series, there's always those lighthearted, happy, funny, joking moments. And it makes you kind of really think about the mentalities that go into then creating these experiences, where they're creating an entire character. And when it comes to creating an entire universe or character experience, there comes also then the aspect of joy and how this character would interact with that energy. So I think it's also really cool to see that creation doesn't always have to be this grind, hustle, very serious and stern mentality. There is the ability to be lighthearted and carefree within creation, and for it to be something that is then successful because of that. And sometimes that's what the Five of Wands energy is. It's very playful competition. Sometimes it's not exactly a serious or negative energy. Sometimes it's just the energy of, okay, I'm in competition with people, so I'm kind of being inspired to work in a different way. And then we have the Page of Wands. So again, it's like the energy of following the things that inspire you, following the things that kind of like light you up, and the things that kind of give you that energy of, it's like when I think about Wands energy, I think about what really fuels us, what kind of drives us. It's like that kind of, it's like the fuel for ambition almost. So I think with the Page of Wands, maybe you're going to be with these people, with these collaborations, exploring things. Maybe you're going to be all kind of learning how to create something together and collaborating on how to create or birth that into this physical reality, but in a very fun and lighthearted way. Because again, wands are things that kind of fuel us, things that fire us up. So I don't think it's going to be a boring experience. I think whatever you're creating is going to be pretty joyous and fun to work on. And then on the bottom of the deck, we have the Five of Pentacles. So maybe right now you're currently feeling like you're unsupported. Maybe it's going to be something that is a little bit difficult to deal with financially, and maybe that's a sign to be able to kind of work around that. A lot of times if we have the awareness that there might not be money, then, or we have the awareness of something that could be coming into our experience, then we have the capacity to plan around it and work around it versus kind of adhering to it. So maybe this is a call to, with whatever it is, find ways to maybe crowdfund or get resources or get sponsors or get people to help fund whatever your intentions are. It's important to note that success came out. So regardless of whatever you're seeing or whatever might be being experienced, you're on the path to success. Maybe this is just a warning of how to circumvent certain issues, or maybe you're feeling unsupported with the Five of Pentacles, and it's pointing towards, like, even if you're not feeling supported, even if you're feeling like left out in the cold, even if you don't feel like you have the warmth and support of other individuals, things are going to work out and you are going to be successful. But peace and blessings, you guys, and I hope you guys have an amazing night.